When I was a kid, one of my friends back in Turkey had a Motorola Razr V3, the first Razr phone to ever be released, and let me tell you, this phone was the bomb. The design was extremely special and appealing, leading sales across the board and eventually selling over 130 million units. Fast forward 20 years, we have the Motorola Razr 40 Ultra alongside the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5 and the OPPO Find N2 Flip. Leading the line in the new generation of flip phones, these devices look absolutely beautiful, but there is one big problem that once you see it, you just can't unsee it, and I'm wondering if you guys will feel the same way. Let the facts speak. What better way to start off this video than to check out the designs along with the displays. The Razr 40 Ultra has a screen on the front that covers the whole area, with the cameras being situated on the bottom right on top of the screen. This was actually our screen of choice out of the three, as the Galaxy Z Flip 5 has drawn the screen right above the cameras, so it has a bit of a different shape compared to the full coverage of the Motorola Flip phone. It still looks fine though, as the screen is large enough to utilize it in different ways. The Find N2 Flip, on the other hand, has opted for a different design, and I'm not personally a big fan of it. These phones are expensive and they should be giving you the full package by utilizing every space imaginable, so this screen could, and in my opinion, should have been larger. The back sides of the phones also differ, as OPPO's choice was a matte finish, which I am a fan of. I always prefer matte to glass because I absolutely hate fingerprints and it gets annoying having to rub the phone on yourself to clean it all the time. Samsung opted for a complete glass body, which is fine, as I'm sure some people will enjoy it this way as well, with the color of the phone sticking out a bit more because of the shine. Considering the front side is fully glass as well as due to the screen, it looks pretty nice, but as I mentioned, the fingerprints can get a bit annoying. Motorola, on the other hand, is once again going to be my choice. This is the known choice of color from Motorola, and as much as I like this fade, I also like how the device feels. With a full screen on the front and a matte finish on the back, I can comfortably say that the Razr 40 Ultra is our flip phone of choice regarding the design category, and now that we've taken a general look, we can check out what these front screens can do. Unsurprisingly, Motorola's phone can do a lot of things thanks to the large area. You can use the menu of the phone as if you were using it on a full screen, and you're even able to play games if you like. All the camera settings are available to you as well, something that's not present on the other two, as they are limited in terms of accessibility. Widgets are also all good and well and allow you to see the time, the weather, your notifications, among other things, but you're not always going to want to use the full screen to check out everything, especially if you own a flip phone, because we feel that the front screen should be one of the main reasons that you're willing to pay twice the amount of a regular phone. We will now test the cameras. I am fairly optimistic, don't know why, because these aren't really marketed as camera phones, but I feel they should be good enough because of the price. Luckily, all of them are fairly capable outdoors. This is not really a surprise, as even $400 mid-range phones are taking really good photos in good lighting in 2023. The warmer white balance on the left and the middle is normal this time around, as it was a pretty sunny scene, so Samsung actually tried to tone it down a little for some reason. Indoors though is where we had some inconsistencies on some phones, mainly the Razr 40 Ultra. When the lighting wasn't ideal or the light was a strong color, the white balance was thrown off, as you can see in the photo. You can use the Pro mode to adjust the white balance to your liking in these cases, but the reality is that you shouldn't have to, and it's fair to say that Samsung looked overall more consistent, with OPPO not being too far behind. Low light was a direct issue for all of the phones. If I had to choose one, I would go for the Galaxy once again, as Samsung overall having better software than the other two shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. Ultra wide is really straightforward, with OPPO squishing me like a monkey squishes a banana. If it wasn't for that, the photo would probably be fine. Samsung actually has the best details, and a reason for the angle being a bit different is that the Galaxy Z Flip 5's ultra-wide mode has a really wide angle at 0.5 times. In general, OPPO is just falling behind, as indoor isn't different, with the colors and details being better on the middle and on the right. I also think it's fair to say that Samsung is looking pretty sharp, but in all honesty, I would expect OPPO to perform better than Motorola when it comes to phone cameras. I guess Motorola just puts in the extra effort because they didn't want their legacy as the god of flip phones to be tainted. Low light ultra wide is pretty standard, as only one phone will make the cut here for a somewhat usable photo, and that phone will of course be the Galaxy. Yes, there is a good amount of noise, but the detail is still preserved better. As for portrait mode, OPPO has finally managed to please me. It's still not topping the charts by itself as Samsung is still going strong, but the first photo definitely makes me look much more blended in with the background compared to the cut and paste on the Galaxy. The indoor photo is pretty similar as I do have a distant memory of testing out Motorola flagships back at the office. Surprise, surprise, their portrait modes were not good in the past either. The Find and the Galaxy are continuing the trend of pushing out good portrait photos until low light makes it pretty difficult for the phones. You'll most likely not be taking portrait photos when the lighting isn't great, but we take one anyway for the curious cats out there. Samsung has done better here, but overall I think OPPO's flip phone did a very solid job. In the video category, I think that there is no contest here. Samsung is just blazing through with much better quality and optimized software than OPPO and Motorola when shooting footage outdoors. I think it's fair to say at this point that Samsung just has more experience with phone cameras and that this is showing in this comparison. The difference between OPPO and Samsung is smaller indoors due to OPPO brightening up the scene a bit and sprinkling some sharpness, which does help. Regardless, both of them are pretty good, with Motorola having the same white balance issues once again as the yellow light from the ceiling is problematic. In general, I wouldn't recommend shooting at night with phone cameras, let alone flip phone cameras, but it's super interesting how OPPO did a remarkably good job here and actually has a usable video compared to the hot mess that the other two produced in low lights. Last on the list is a video taken with the ultra-wide camera. Is it great? No. Is it bad though? No again. If you need it, it's there, and we usually show you an outdoor video in these mini comparisons because this is pretty much the optimal time and place. Even then, the performance is just above average for all of the phones as ultra-wide cameras are hard to get right, which brings us to zoom. None of these phones have an optical zoom, so naturally, they're going to be lingering around 10 to 20 times digital zoom. I personally don't think there's much to review here, just that you're able to chill around 2 to 3 times digital zoom if you want to actually use it for some reason and get decent results. As for stabilization, Motorola is just awful. OPPO and Samsung are hanging in there while I take a stroll in front of our office, and I would say that they're good enough to shoot basic videos with little movements. Turning on the stabilization feature gives you QHD resolution on the Galaxy, and apparently OPPO's phone remains at 4K, but the footage is really shaky. Obviously can't be compared to the Moto phone's video jumping all over the place, so Samsung looks like they have this one in the bag. On the other hand, these phones also have selfie cameras, even though you can use the main cameras for selfies, so I think it's kinda pointless. The selfies are overall fine, with the softwares having different traits, but I would personally just fold the phone and use the front camera to take selfies with these devices. As for a selfie video, the same point stands. It's just better to use the main camera to take these videos because the quality along with the software adjusting exposure and white balance is just much more consistent. Regardless, they're all usable enough to a degree and can be utilized when you need to utilize it. We will now listen to a few seconds of recording to judge the quality of the microphones.
What's up guys, back with another comparison between 3 of the most amazing flip phones I've seen. Now, this statement might be a bit of an exaggeration because flip phones are super expensive, so not every company is releasing these. And at the same time, since I'm used to comparing, how should I say, traditional phones, these have been a bit of a challenge. You have some settings that aren't perfectly optimized. You have some resolution issues that happen when you record when the phone is closed rather than opened up, so it's been a bit of a challenge, but we're hoping that the mic quality test will go fairly smoothly and that they will have a good enough mic to complement a good video quality.
I actually like OPPO because of the noise cancelling as it dims down the really annoying machinery sound in the back. The other two are also good enough but lacking a little in the noise cancelling department. Lastly, only the Razr 40 Ultra has a macro mode, so it's no surprise that you can get closer to images and capture more detail much better than the competition. This isn't going to be commonly used, but it's still a nice perk to have. As for the finisher, we did a few performance tests. You're not gonna buy a flip phone if you're a gamer, but you still want the phone to function well while handling a couple of apps at the same time, right? Well, all of them are at a respectable level when it comes to this, with Samsung unsurprisingly performing better across the board. Motorola is second but with really close results, as OPPO is lagging behind a bit in third place, regardless with above average results. So, now is the time for your opinions. Which flip phone was your favorite? For me, I'm not really a fan of flip phones. I think that they were really fun to play around with, but not sure if I would like to own one because they still kind of feel like a gimmick to me, but I definitely make a choice between the Razr 40 Ultra and the Z Flip 5. I feel OPPO needs to improve quite a bit with their phones, starting with the design, so we will have to wait and see what they do. Thank you for watching our comparison video of the newest and most fancy flip phones, and I will see you around.